Hello and welcome to Eat to Treat. I'm Dr. Amaris Williams with Eat to Treat. I have a PhD in nutrition and I'm an avid foodie and a cook. And I do live cook along cooking demonstrations every first and third Saturday of every month. And we do hypertension or high blood pressure friendly recipes as well as diabetes friendly recipes with slight modifications. Um, and I post the ingredients ahead of time on eat-to-treat.org. And that way you can get the ingredients in advance and join me in the kitchen to cook a healthy and delicious meal. So today we're making carnitas. We're going to make a turkey carnitas, and we're not going to simmer it in fat for hours. We're going to simmer it in chicken stock. So it's a healthier version, but still plenty of flavor and delicious. And then we're gonna serve it with some fajita vegetables on a tortilla with some cheese and some beans. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is have a large pot, and then put your turkey thighs, or if you have using turkey legs, put your turkey legs in the pot. We don't need to brown these first because um, we're gonna be peeling the skin off after we cook them. So the flavor that we would impart by browning the skin will be removed when it's all said and done. So there's no point in browning it first. So we're just gonna put them in the pot, and then we're going to put a quart of chicken stock in. I'm using this no salt added chicken stock. If you're using a low sodium chicken stock, then I would not add any salt to it. But I'm going to add a little bit of salt to mine. And the only reason why I buy no salt added chicken stock is so I can know exactly how much salt is in my food. And I'm in control of the salt. Because even when I use no salt added chicken stock, I still typically add a little bit of salt to whatever I'm making. Alright, so the other thing I have on hand as far as liquid goes is this pitcher of water, and that's just as the meat boils, I pour it in to raise the levels again, and I need to keep the meat covered. So and so that's what that's for. If you don't have your meat covered by the boiling water, whatever is out of the water is not going to tenderize. So we're going to boil this for some time, and it's to tenderize the meat. And if whatever you have is not in the water, it's not going to get tenderized. So I'm going to put 3 bay leaves in my pot, as well as 3 garlic cloves is in the recipe, but I've got this tiny little bulb of garlic. It's tiny. If you've got garlic cloves, just cut them in half and throw them in there. Cutting them in half exposes the insides to the water, and that's what we want. And so I'm just going to cut this whole bulb of garlic in half and throw it in there. And that's just exposing the insides to the water so the flavor can release. And then the next thing is 2 teaspoons of oregano. And all these spices are optional. If you don't have it, then don't worry about it. The main thing is just boiling the meat to tenderize it. But and you can season this however you like. Really, it's customizable. And the next thing I'm putting in is thyme, about 2 teaspoons worth of thyme. So again, that's oregano and thyme in there. And then most carnitas recipes call for either oranges or orange peels. I'm going to put the whole orange in there. And they were out of oranges at the grocery store when I went, so I got these mandarins. So I'm going to use 2. And all I'm doing is cutting them into quarters and then throwing them in the pot. Nothing fancy here. So Again, cut into quarters and put it in the pot. And you may be wondering if you can do this with white meat turkey, and I've tried it with turkey breast. You will have to boil it longer if you use turkey breast if you want it to get tender. Okay, the next thing is an onion. This is a medium onion. I'm just going to cut it in quarters like I did with the oranges and put it in the pot. So, just get that in there. And all the cuts that I made to the onion, I cut through the root so that the root is still on every piece. And that just holds the onion together, so when you boil it, it doesn't fall apart and separate into layers, and then you have to fish them out. Okay, let me make sure I haven't forgotten anything. A cinnamon stick. If you have a cinnamon stick, go ahead and toss that in there, or ground cinnamon you can use. And then the last thing is some brown sugar. This is not entirely necessary, but it does make your house smell good when you boil this with brown sugar. It smells kind of like a sweet tea with meat in it, which is weird, but it does actually smell good. Oh, that's way too much. I didn't mean to put that much in there. We'll see how that comes out. So you're only supposed to put a 1/4 cup of brown sugar in there, and as you can see, I dumped more than that in there, and it's too late. Last but not least, since I used no salt added chicken stock, I'm going to put about 1/2 teaspoon of salt in my pot. And that's it. We're just going to turn it on and let it go. I've got mine on 7 out of 10. And we're just going to let that come up to boil, and make sure everything's in there good. Alright, now, and we're going to boil this. The chicken thighs, you can get away with boiling for about 1.5 hours, and you'll still get a tender product. If you're using breast, like I said, if you want to boil it longer, I boiled my breast 2 hours, and I got a nice tender product. You can play with your time depending on how old your turkey is, by like age of the turkey itself, not like how long you've had it type of old. And like for example, if you know a hunter and the hunter gave you a turkey that he or she shot, then that turkey you're probably gonna have to boil longer. So next up, let's assume that this has been boiling for an hour. Now it's time to make the fajita vegetables that go with it. And I'm going to do that in this pan here. So you just need a large pan. And I'm going to cut up first some onion. So this is the root end, like I was talking about earlier. And I'm just going to cut it in half through the root and the stem end. And that's just so that I have a flat surface and it's not going to roll around on me while I try to cut it. Alright, so I'm just going to slice this. It doesn't have to be fancy. I'm just going to do thin slices of onion. Okay, and then we'll do the other half the same way. So again, you want these to be hot, so you probably want to start making your fajita vegetables after the turkey has boiled, as long as you're going to boil it. So you make the fajita vegetables while it's cooling. So if you need to stop the video and come back to this point, go ahead and do that. So when you're ready to make your vegetables, go ahead and put some olive oil in a pan. turn it on. I'm at 5 out of 10, and I'm going to go ahead and put my onion in. And then I've got 2 bell peppers here. It doesn't matter what color you pick. And so a bell pepper is like a box with seeds in it. We want the cardboard part of the box, the outside. We don't want the inside, which is the seeds. So we just cut down the side like that. Cut the side off. And then turn it. Cut another side off. And then keep doing that until we've cut all the sides of the bell pepper off, leaving the seeds in the middle. Alright, and so this is the middle with the seeds, and I'm just going to toss it. And then these bell peppers, I'm just going to cut them into thin strips, keeping my fingers curled under and out of the way of the blade. Here's a spoiler. We're going to do the other bell pepper the exact same way. So again, cut the sides off. Excuse me. Okay, and again, slice it nice and thin. Okay, now give that a good stir. And you can put whatever vegetables you want in there, whatever you think will go well with your carnitas, with your turkey carnitas, and your cheese, and your bell peppers, and your beans. If you're using beans, you don't have to use beans if you don't want to. I thought about putting mushrooms in mine, but I don't want to confuse anybody, so I left those out, but I think mushrooms would be good in there. The next thing we're going to do is put the seasonings in. So first, some garlic paste. About a half a tablespoon of garlic paste. And then we want some chili powder and some cumin. So a half a teaspoon of chili powder. Cayenne pepper, put that in there to taste, so it depends on how spicy you want it, or not spicy at all, just a little depth of flavor, just put a little bit. And then cumin. We want 1 teaspoon of cumin. Okay. And then just stir it up and cook it. Now you can add a little bit of salt to this if you so choose. I'm going to wait until the end and taste it with all the other stuff, with the turkey and everything together, before I decide to add salt to this. But it's starting to smell really good with the cumin and the garlic. And I'm just going to cook that until the vegetables are as tender as I want them to be. Okay, so while that's cooking, I'll show you what the pot looks like when it's done. So here is what I made earlier today. I've got the oranges and the onions and the bay leaves and the cinnamon sticks and everything in there. And this is the turkey breast that I boiled for 2 hours. And some of it was not under the water the whole time, so it's not as tender as it could be in some places. But it is falling apart in other places, so that's good. So I'm just going to pull the meat out. You can use the stock for something else if you want, but I'm just going to get my turkey breast tenderloins here and pull them out. Don't forget to stir your fajita vegetables while you're doing this. Okay, and then I'm just going to use a fork and my fingers. If you're serving this to other people who are finicky, maybe just use 2 forks, but I'm just going to use my fingers because I'm going to eat this myself and I wash my hands frequently. And I'm just going to pull it apart into the size of pieces that I want. And it's just coming apart really easily because of all the boiling time that it had. Okay, so this is at a 7 out of 10, and it's boiling away vigorously. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. I'm turning it down to 6 because I don't want it to boil. I want it to simmer. The harder you boil it, the more water you're going to have to keep adding to it. So less work for you if it's slightly lower temperature. And so once you get all your meat torn up the size that you want it to be, then if you want it crispy, kind of like real carnitas made of pork, it's a little crispy on the outside. What you do is you put it in a skillet and brown it a little bit. Now I did this with turkey thighs earlier this week, and after I pulled the meat, it was nice and tender, but then once I browned it, it kind of got a little bit chewier again. It was crispy on the outside, but you kind of sacrifice some chewiness for the crispiness. Don't forget to stir your fajita vegetables. Okay, so you don't have to brown it. The meat is 100% cooked at this point, and you can just serve it as is. But if you do want to brown it, you can brown it in olive oil in a hot skillet, and then put it with whatever you're serving it with. Alright, so I'm just going to stop there with the shredding of the meat, because that is plenty. And just FYI, if you are making this in advance, like you can make this for the whole week. If you're making this in advance, just put it in the fridge like this, shredded and ready to go, and then brown it as you use it, if you're browning it. Go ahead and pull it out of the fridge, toss it in a skillet, brown it up, then put it in your tortillas or whatever. Okay, so I think my fajita vegetables are cooked enough. I'm not trying to make them too mushy. I want them to still have some bite. So I'm going to leave it like this and go ahead and pull them off the heat. And then I'll switch this for my cast iron skillet. Alright, So, into my cast iron skillet, I'm going to put one of these whole wheat carb control tortillas. Now, these don't have any fewer carbs than a regular tortilla. They just have more fiber, and the fiber kind of slows the rise in blood sugar that you would see if you were eating a regular tortilla. And the whole wheat part is just more fiber, so it's fiber on top of fiber. And I mean, unless I told you you were eating a whole wheat high fiber tortilla, you probably wouldn't notice the difference, because when you're eating a tortilla, mostly what you notice is what's inside it. So definitely worth getting the high fiber variants of the tortillas. It'll help your blood sugar out, it'll help your regularity and all that. Okay, so now I'm going to put cheese on top. If I can get this thing open. There we go. Now, I went to Aldi and they did not have a low-fat cheese, so I'm using regular fat cheese. But if you can find low-fat cheese, definitely go for it. And put, that's about a half a cup of cheese. I wouldn't go more than that, especially if you're not using a low-fat cheese. And just spread it out on your tortilla. And then you can turn on your heat. I'm at 6 out of 10 right now. Now, if you were going to brown your meat, you definitely want to do that before you put your tortilla in there. Adding a little water to my pot here, because my meat is not covered. Alright, so I'm not going to brown mine. If you were browning yours, throw a little bit of olive oil in the pan, brown your meat, pull it out, then put your tortilla in there and put your cheese on it. Then take your browned turkey and put it, I like to put it on half. You don't need a lot, this turkey, a little bit goes a long way. That's about all I'm going to put. And then the other half, I'm going to put these black beans. And these beans are linked, so when you go onto eat-to-treat.org, you will find that this recipe, where it says beans on the list of ingredients, there's a link, and that will take you to the other page where we made beans in 2023. I think it was about a year ago that we made beans, and it's just a can of beans and some seasonings, and you boil it for a little while and it comes out delicious. So that's what this is. Nothing special. I mean, it tastes good, but it's not get a bag of beans, soak them overnight, boil them for 3 hours. All that is not necessary. Just get a can of beans and season it. Alright, so I put some beans on half of my tortilla with some cheese, and I'm just going to cook it until it's crispy on the bottom and melty on the top, and then fold it over. And then I'll put my fajita vegetables on top of that. And I'm just realizing that I don't have a plate. I'll be right back and get a plate. Okay, so I've got my plate, and we're almost crispy there. And really, this is it. This is the recipe. So you boil the meat with the seasonings for an hour and a half, pull it out, shred it, brown it if you want, then make yourself a quesadilla, basically, with some fajita vegetables on top. So I'm going to go ahead and get some vegetables on my plate. Actually, I think I'm going to put it inside. I haven't done that before. I'm sure it's really good. Some vegetables inside. and then go on ahead and fold it over. See what it's doing. It's not quite crispy enough for me, but I'm just gonna go ahead and fold it over so we don't have dead air waiting on this to crisp up. Ooh, it's hot. Okay. And so that's the meal. That is it. It's a whole wheat tortilla with some cheese, some fajita vegetables, some carnitas, turkey carnitas, and some black beans if you choose to use beans. If not, don't use beans. All right, let me go ahead and do an outro so that you guys can get to boiling your stuff. Alright, so today I just showed you how to make turkey carnitas, a much healthier version than what you get at the restaurant, which is usually cooked in fat for hours. And then we served it with some fajita vegetables and some cheese and a whole wheat tortilla, which is much better than just a regular plain flour tortilla. And this is accordant with a healthy diet, especially if you put a little bit of legumes in there, some beans. And we're going to keep going in this direction. So hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to be reminded of the next demonstration. And I'll see you next time. All right, bye.